Hello, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to sum up belief and the law of attraction in about 5 minutes. So let's start with, what is a belief? A belief is a proposition or premise that is accepted as truth, but is not actually the truth. Remember that. We can only believe in something that we do not know for certain. If we know something is certain, it is not a belief, but a fact. Keep that in mind also. And finally, you are at this very moment presently experiencing a life that is congruent with your past thoughts and beliefs. So let's first of all look at how a belief is constructed. A belief starts with a thought. That thought could be constructed from your own mind, the words of another person, or an event or situation. The mind will then consciously run the thought through a process of validation tests. The mind will then either dismiss the whole situation as insignificant and move on and forget it, or it will attach an emotion to the thought. Once an emotion is attached, the thought process is accelerated exponentially, eventually moving to an unconscious process called the reticular accessing system, which will continuously and unconsciously run a confirmation bias supporting the belief. And this is why we get so emotionally attached to our beliefs. So, how is this related to the law of attraction, manifestation, or reality creation? There have been many volumes of literature written on how the law of attraction works, usually with some kind of mystical or vibrational or magical conclusion. And who knows, maybe it could be true or not. But for this case in point, it's completely irrelevant. The individual belief system we all have is multi-layered and embedded within itself many times over. We even have beliefs about beliefs and our own beliefs. So what follows is what I consider a logical, practical viewpoint. I'm not intending to invalidate your beliefs or proclaim that mine are immutable. The basic truth of this explanation is that belief precedes thought, that precedes action. So let's imagine a scale. Here we have 0, and 0 represents absolute doubt. Here we have conviction at 100, and in the middle is your belief. High belief here and low belief here. So at this end of the scale there is more doubt, this end of the scale there is more certainty, but it's a scale. We will use a line for the purpose of today. However, I do believe that line is a circle, because to have absolute doubt, you must be convinced that you have absolute doubt, which in itself is a paradox. So the paradox is reconciled by the law of polarity, which I mentioned in a previous video. Now, let's run a desire through our belief system and see what happens. Let's say, for example, I want to go out the weekend with some friends. Just, I fancy a night out. Why not? Now, I don't believe that John will come. Doesn't matter why I believe it. Maybe it's because he said no so many times in the past. It doesn't really matter. I now have a belief that John will say no. So what is my action that precedes the belief? And that is, it's very unlikely I'll call John. Thus, my belief is manifested. There is no John at this party. Now, I believe on the other end of the spectrum, Dave is a dead cert. So I call Dave first. I'm convinced he's going to come. So when I call Dave, my enthusiasm is high. I have an assumption that he's already going to say yes. He will sense this, so much so that he will probably get FOMO if he even senses that he wants to say no. So he most likely or almost certainly says, yeah, I'm there, mate, I'm in. My belief is manifested. Then there's Norman. Norman is a 50-50. So I'm a little bit more cautious in my language and my tone when I call him. I'm not really emotionally attached to it, and he'll sense that I don't really care if he comes or not. So he may come, may not, and I'm pretty much unfazed by the result because it's half and half. Now, I really like Fred, but I believe there's only a 25% chance he'll come. But I really want him to come, and I'll be disappointed if he doesn't. Fred will likely pick up that I'm going to be disappointed if he says no, but that doesn't really infuse him because I've got a low tone when I call him, and I'm more cautious in my language. So it's quite likely Fred will just give me an excuse and my belief is manifested yet again. Anyway, you get the idea, but never underestimate how much humans pick up on unconscious cues like language, voice tonality, and face-to-face body language. Think of the time when someone has a lot of charisma. You pick up on that, you sense it in the room, you are attracted towards that thing. And if someone's a grumpy git, you are attracted away from that thing. So back to the scale. Basically, anything over 50% is likely to lead to a decisive action. With the higher the belief, the more congruent the action towards the attainment of the desire. But remember, doubt represents resistance. So 50% belief is also 49% doubt. That's going to be a rough road as you fight with yourself constantly, as you have resistance and movement forward, resistance, movement forward. The nearer 99% belief, the easier it gets. Then you have the magic 100% conviction. In this state, you no longer need to think about the desire. There is no resistance. At this point, you enter into that magical flow state that many people refer to. You no longer question anything. You just act in absolute congruence with the desire. In the flow state, you naturally attract what you want through your actions and your acute attention to opportunities. And you will continue to act without resistance until the desire is attained. Literature on the law of attraction is often dismissed because it just, looks too simple, or it's just too magical or mystical for most people to digest. But basically, the literature is saying, don't act until you've created a conviction the desire will be manifested, at which point you enter a flow state and no longer have to think about it because you will act as if until it is. It makes sense. Instead of embarking on a journey to attaining a desire by acting first, then suffering the stress and anxiety of resistance, just move your beliefs to align with what you want. This is not mystical. The basic premise of cognitive therapy is to dissect your beliefs, deconstruct the thoughts and emotions, and challenge them and find evidence to the contrary of the belief in order to change them and live a more productive existence. The objective of this video was to demonstrate the power we all have by being aware of how our beliefs work for us or against us. A common objection is, I can't just think something will happen, and it does. And you're right. That statement is a belief, and it will become the truth. Like Napoleon famously said in Think and Grow Rich, whatever the mind of man can believe and conceive, it can achieve. Finally, I don't want to leave you without any practical advice on how to strengthen belief to increase potential realization. So you can try this simple technique. Number one, state the desire in the present with I choose to, I decide to, or my intention is. This kind of language reduces resistance, unlike the I am affirmations, which cause inner resistance initially, as you're probably affirming what you currently believe to be a lie. So once you've stated your desire in the present, then sit in silence and observe any thoughts or emotions that appear, and then acknowledge them and let them pass. Then repeat steps 1 and 2, 5 or 6 times, and then carry on about your day. And just do this every day until your intention has no counter intention. So just to briefly say that again, state your desire in the present, stop, see what your central nervous system and thoughts do, acknowledge them, let them move on, restate the intention, and repeat. Remember, all beliefs are a paradox. They are equally as true as they are false. They are pliable and moldable if you are prepared to put in the work. Thanks for listening to What the Sharmanator Thinks, and I look forward to your comments.